She wasn't born into royalty. She didn't come from riches, power, or fame. She was an orphan, a young Jewish girl named Esther, living far from her homeland under the mighty Persian Empire. Yet God had a plan for her, a plan that would one day save her entire people. In the days of King Xerxes, who ruled 127 provinces from India to Ethiopia, the Persian Empire was the most powerful on earth. One day, to show off his wealth and glory, the king threw a grand feast that lasted 180 days. Gold cups, rich food, and endless wine filled the palace halls. But pride entered his heart. At the height of the celebration, King Xerxes commanded Queen Vashti to appear before his guests wearing her royal crown, so everyone could see her beauty. But Queen Vashti refused. She would not let herself be displayed before a drunken crowd. The king was furious. His pride was wounded. On the advice of his officials, he removed Queen Vashti from her throne and declared that every man should be ruler in his own household. The queen was gone, but God's plan had only just begun. After some time, the king's anger cooled, and he longed for a new queen. His advisors suggested a royal search to gather the most beautiful young women from across the empire. Among them was Esther, a kind and humble Jewish girl raised by her cousin Mordecai, who taught her to love and trust God. Esther was taken to the palace, where she found favor with everyone, especially the keeper of the women. She was gentle, wise, and respectful. When her turn came to meet the king, she entered with quiet confidence. And when King Xerxes saw her, he was amazed. He placed the royal crown upon her head and made her Queen of Persia. But Esther kept her true identity a secret, just as Mordecai had instructed. Mordecai often stayed near the king's gate, watching over Esther from a distance. One day, he overheard two palace guards plotting to kill the king. Mordecai quickly told Esther, who warned King Xerxes in Mordecai's name. The plot was stopped, and the king's life was saved. The event was written down in the royal records, but Mordecai received no reward, at least not yet. Not long after, a man named Haman rose to great power in the palace. Everyone bowed before him, everyone except Mordecai. When Haman learned that Mordecai was a Jew, his anger burned with hatred. He wanted not only Mordecai destroyed, but all Jews throughout the empire. Haman tricked the king into signing a decree that on a certain day, all Jews would be killed. Letters were sent to every province, spreading fear and grief among the people. Mordecai tore his clothes, put on sackcloth, and sat outside the king's gate mourning. He sent a message to Esther. "You must go to the king and beg for your people's lives." But Esther was terrified. "Anyone who goes to the king without being called can be put to death," she said. "And I haven't been called for 30 days. Mordecai replied, "Don't think you'll escape in the palace. If you remain silent, deliverance will come from somewhere else, but you and your family will perish. And who knows, perhaps you were made queen for such a time as this." Esther's fear turned into courage. She said, "Go, gather all the Jews in Susa. Fast for me for 3 days. Do not eat or drink. I and my maidens will do the same. Then I will go to the king, and if I perish, I perish." After 3 days, Esther dressed in her royal robes and entered the king's court. Her heart pounded. One wrong step could mean death. But when the king saw her, he smiled and held out his golden scepter. "What is your request, Queen Esther? Even up to half the kingdom, it shall be granted." Esther invited the king and Haman to a banquet. At the meal, she invited them again for the next day, waiting patiently for the right time to speak. That night, the king couldn't sleep. He asked for the royal records to be read to him, and there he discovered the story of Mordecai, who had saved his life years before. Realizing Mordecai had never been honored, the king decided to reward him. Just then, Haman entered, planning to ask permission to kill Mordecai. The king asked him, "What should be done for the man the king delights to honor?" Thinking the king meant him, Haman proudly said, "Let him wear the royal robe, ride the king's horse, and be led through the city with praise." The king smiled. "Excellent. Go do everything you've said for Mordecai the Jew." Haman's face turned pale. He had to lead the man he hated through the streets, shouting his praises. The next day, at the second banquet, the king once again asked Esther, "What is your request, my queen?" Taking a deep breath, Esther revealed the truth. "If I have found favor in your eyes, spare my life and the lives of my people," she said, "for we have been sold to be destroyed, killed, and wiped out." The king's face darkened. "Who would dare do such a thing?" he demanded. Esther turned and pointed. "The enemy is this wicked Haman." The king's fury exploded. He left the room in rage, and when he returned, he saw Haman begging for mercy. At that moment, the king ordered Haman to be executed on the very gallows Haman had built for Mordecai. Though Haman was gone, his evil decree still remained, for a royal law could not be undone. So Esther went before the king once more, pleading for her people. King Xerxes allowed her and Mordecai to write a new decree. The Jews could defend themselves on the appointed day. When that day arrived, the Jews stood strong. God gave them victory, and their enemies were defeated. Mourning turned into joy. Fear turned into celebration. To remember God's deliverance, the Jews established the festival of Purim, named after the lots Haman had cast to destroy them. Every year they would feast, rejoice, give gifts, and thank God for turning sorrow into joy. Mordecai was honored and placed in a position of great authority next to the king. But it wasn't power that made him great, it was his faith and humility. And Esther, the orphan girl who became queen, would forever be remembered as one of the most courageous women in history. Even though God's name is never mentioned in the book of Esther, His hand is seen in every event, guiding, protecting, and turning evil into good. He was there when Esther entered the palace, when Mordecai uncovered the plot, when the king couldn't sleep, and when Haman's plan fell apart. So remember this truth: God can use anyone, anywhere, at any time to do something amazing. Just like Esther, you are not here by accident. You are placed in this moment for such a time as this.